and welcome back to another episode of the Wake Up Talk. It's been a while, yes, but we are back with nice news, and a little few messages to share, and also some laughs, hopefully. I have a friend, Steph, who has come to join us today, who I'm very excited to have present and talk to you guys as well. I've known them for quite a while now. Let's play their video so you can get a little introduced.
Hi, my name is Steph, and I'm an interdisciplinary artist and arts worker from Tkaronto, or Toronto, under Treaty 13. And I'm really interested in seeing spirituality as a sort of visual or tactile language, specifically the way objects and material become the knowledge holders of information and meaning across space and time.
Okay, hey Steph, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Yes, it's nice to have you here. I rushed the intro a bit, just because I'm partly very excited to have you here, as like both of us know. I guess no one else knows. It's been a while for us to get this episode put together, so
Yeah, sure.
highly anticipated. um, both of us, it's been busy for me. I've had a show, a few art projects, started a new website. Anything you'd like to share with our audience? Anything new with you?
Ooh, I also started my new website.
Oh, okay. You want to drop that some info on that?
Yeah, little stephaniefung.ca. What else is new? Cut my hair last week or the week before. I don't know. Time flies by these days. And I'm enjoying the weather. What about you?
Honestly, also enjoying the weather. My birthday's coming up this weekend, so I'm very excited for that. Gemini season, yes.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hopefully we get a few of those comments on this video here. Maybe that'll attract people. Birthday video. Let's skip the small talk. Let's get into the current energies here.
Let's do it.
Okay. Positive spirit guides and ancestors, I welcome you to the space. Please allow me to see the messages that we need to share. Actually, before we begin, Steph, how into tarot, oracle, spirituality are you? I should say.
I'm very interested in it. I would say that I'm not as disciplined of a person where it's like a practice in my everyday life, although I really, I'll be honest, beyond brushing my teeth, nothing is a practice in my everyday life.
Okay, fair. Building routines, you know?
Yeah. Routine is difficult for me sometimes, but I've had a deck since I was 17, 16, but I picked it up and put it down for a couple of years until, lo and behold, 2021, when I had not that much to do. And when I started finally getting into it, I really liked it because it was like a language, but with images. And I thought that was really interesting. And reading up on all the history and everyone's different variations of meaning, it felt very poetic as a way of getting in touch with yourself and I guess with other people as well.
Poetic
because the deck is very generational in terms of the images that people are familiar with. And
yes.
I think it's really interesting what people choose to keep or lose in culture. I don't know if I practice any specific strain of spirituality, but I'm very well researched.
Okay. That means you have a lot you could bring to this discussion.
Sure.
Okay, let's see what's going on here. Positive ancestors and spirit guides, please allow me to see the current energies. What do we need to talk about today?
Is there anything on your mind?
The first thing that came out here is this energy of the feeling of stagnation, of cycles not ending. With this never-ending story first coming out, and it's kind of, and oftentimes this feeling for me personally will come up when it's let's say I'm working on a project and I've been crossing all of the T's, dotting all of the I's, but still it's I'm not seeing what I want to see yet. So it feels man, is it just work? Is that all that we have to do, you know? And running that race sometimes makes you want to give up, makes you feel tired.
Absolutely. I've been feeling that a lot for sure.
Let's get a little bit more on that. Yeah. But it's interesting because oftentimes when this energy enters our lives, when we're feeling that sense of stagnation, it still is developmental energy. It's just kind of drawing back that need for immediate results, or just or feeling where you are isn't enough.
Yeah, I think being in those positions kind of makes you force yourself to like analyze where your energy is being directed, but also where you're drawing energy from. Because like you wake up every day, like you still got juice, but you kind of just have to get. There's always like perspective that we're missing out on.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's sometimes, yeah, we just have to be open to to the different signals that are trying to guide us.
Yeah. I feel like even going into this, like sometimes like our day-to-day roles will make us feel tired out. And like I'm taking a religion course, and one thing that they were, I think it's in Hinduism, there's like this belief of like Dharma, where like that's your duty, like, you know, the kind of role that you have to do on earth. And kind of like a way to kind of get through the pain and suffering of your Dharma is by like doing things without even, it's like doing, let's say like you feel like I don't want to do it, that means you do it while still feeling like you don't want to do it, so you're balancing it out. It's this interesting like perspective change that they kind of say to employ, and I feel like that's kind of what you're like, similar to what you were drawing on there, like that idea of like it's still your role, try to find a perspective within it that'll allow you to keep going, regardless of how hard it can feel.
I once had a really good teacher who, like, a lot of their like work and like their pedagogy was just, it had to do with sticking with the trouble and like what happens when you come out the other side. Like, do you learn anything? What are you left with? And just the idea that if you stick with the trouble and when you do, like, there's just so much of life that we're not used to the feeling of discomfort. We really don't like to be in a place that isn't positive, but there's so much to learn from there. So if we can find a way to just like situate ourselves in like a point of not even like neutrality, but just some kind of like accepting both the suffering, accepting both the healing, and then understanding that you don't get one without the other, then you kind of start finding your way to the direction that, you know, you need more.
Yeah, and it also gives you that like that strength to have hope and faith that things will get better. Like it always, it's like that cycle. If it's bad now, yes, it will be bad again, but it'll also be good again. Like getting used to that wheel of the boat, the duality there.
Because the cycles always happen. Like there is no life without a cycle, and it's kind of just, you know, once you start noticing the patterns, then you can navigate those cycles easier. You know, it's not like the cycles are going to go away, but next time it might just not be as, for lack of a better word, shitty.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Spirit, show me how the mind is right now, please, with this energy. You shot right out. Okay, so with this not for you and regeneration, it's honestly, it gives this energy of like a feeling like this isn't my path, while still like going through it and honestly evolving on it. It's like mentally, or like it's almost like dissonance, like physically and our surroundings are shifting, but our mind isn't I guess it doesn't look how we expected it. You know, it's not looking how we expected it yet, so it's kind of hard to believe that these shifts are happening, even though they very much, based on these cards here, they are happening for a lot of us. Let's see. Okay, and this is strange how this came out, but with this mother and you're free within the reverse, it ties into this into like a theory that I hear is talked about a lot about with younger generations. I feel like we would technically fit into this in the sense that do you know how there's a lot of people who are raised and taught in school to kind of work for praise and reward, in a sense, like, oh, let me do the best for reward, and someone needs to always tell me that I'm doing good and that I'm on the right track. So it's kind of exposing this energy here of like the reason why a lot of us can't shift to this mindset or like see the rebirth is because there's no one telling you that it's happening, telling us that it's going on. And
I think that's when you start comparing yourself to others. Like, am I doing what is collectively seen as good in reflection of the peers around me? But like that's when you start losing what you're looking for.
Yes. That's when you start to think, you know what, it's not for me, I'm not doing my path. It kind of reminds me of when I first ever wanted to like like ground myself, or I don't want to say even come out as an artist. When I think I posted on Twitter in like 2018, I was just like, hey, like when do you get to start calling yourself an artist? And I was like, I really had to sit there after posting that and be like, huh, wow, I've really been trained on this kind of wheel that someone always has to appoint me to something. Like even if I know and believe like this is me, like I'm like, wow, this programming is very dangerous.
Yeah, I had that a lot. I think I had to like be described in like a assembly when I was like 16, and they called me like a writer or like a poet or something, and I was like just so uncomfortable because I was like, what do you mean? Like I've never been published, like I've never done anything. And then I think like a teacher or someone else was like you know, like maybe you don't need to have that like professional experience just to be considered as someone who engages in that act.
Yeah.
And I think, ever since then, my understanding of identity has just been like, if you say you are something and no one contests it, maybe it's okay.
Right? Literally.
I feel like real ones will let you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't believe it, no one else is going to believe it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's see. What is the advice for this energy, please, Spirit? Okay, it's time to start allowing the changes, this chaos and conflict. What I like about this card, I know you can't technically see it on your end, but it's basically it's a zebra that its skin is turning into a giraffe skin. It's of course without will, it's just happening. It's almost like the pieces there are like falling off of it, but it kind of signifies the place that we're in, where it's like, look, we just kind of have to like be here through the turbulence, you know, like it's like the chrysalis, it's breaking, you know, like it's time to start seeing these shifts, these transitions as good things instead of like, oh my God, like I'm losing people. Oh no, like I have a lot of work. Oh no, like it's different now. And it's like, no, it's good that it's different now because that means we're growing. That means we're changing. That means we can handle more.
Yeah, I find that a lot of like my fears and anxieties these days are rooted in like, oh, I don't want to deal with this thing yet because I don't feel like equipped to deal with it, or I just straight up don't want to. But it's like, again, with the cycles, like you're just going to keep dealing with things that you've never dealt with before. And how interesting is it that you're dealing with the problem for the first time?
Yeah. Like there have been times where I've like had to like mentally trick myself out of like that almost victim mindset where things happen where like, you know, where I'm just like, you know what, I need to get out of this. So like, let's start thanking the universe, or for other people, if you're interested in, you know, whoever your higher power is, I'm like, let me start thanking for this experiences. Like, you know, like, like, you know, let's say I'm broke right now. Like, I'm so happy that I don't have XYZ right now. Like, you know, I can't do anything about it. So let's at least try to change our emotions. Like, you know, like that's the least you can do.
Yeah, I think it's a very like young, like a youthful reaction to kind of have a more woe is me approach, because when you're a kid, like you spend so much time having your emotions and your thoughts invalidated by adults because you're so young. You know, like, well, what is it that you really know? So I feel like when you come in contact with conflict, then if you don't grow out of that, you're always kind of going to have that, oh, I need to stay rooted in this initial emotional response because I don't feel like I'm ever able to express that, versus taking it for what it is and being able to simultaneously be accountable and keep other forces accountable. And that kind of brings you more towards a solution-oriented behavior and thinking, because you're no longer caught up in how it's just impacting you, but just looking at the big picture and being like, I am, you know, but a small frog in the ecosystem. Right.
Or like, you can even say like, even for a second, you can hop out of your current moment and be like, wow, this is a tiny moment in my entire existence. Like, this is, I don't have to give it so much importance that is, you know, then it, as much as it feels as pressing right now, it's not.
Or even like, I'll give it all the importance in the world for 5 minutes, and then it's after that, it's done. It's over.
Let it pass. Yes, exactly. Let the storm pass. sometimes you have to like hear yourself in those victim moments. Like in order to get out of it, you have to hear what you're saying. Like if you're like, oh my god, I'm so mad that I didn't get to
Absolutely.
control this person, you have to like, wow, I'm happy I said it out loud so I can like not have this feeling anymore. Because sometimes when you get to the bottom of some of these, like, why am I upset right now? Like, this lady didn't, I don't know, hand me my food on time or something. And it's just like, well, you're mad because you couldn't control their speed. It's like, who do you think you are?
Mm,
It's like you have to like go within and be like, whoa, okay, I said it. I'm actually not this vibration that my emotions are telling me I am right
yeah.
now. Let's get this under control.
Yeah. I think it's like a very like Western way of thinking that like you can have mastery over your thoughts and emotions rather than understanding that facilitation as like a regulation because like sometimes you have thoughts and feelings that aren't even true to what you believe and who you are, but you have them and you can feel bad for them. But, you know, sometimes your brain just thinks of like some really nasty stuff and
Yeah. You
you can
can't
take
control the
responsibility for
stimuli
it while
around you.
also,
Like,
yeah,
unless
take
you live in a
responsibility, but you don't
book.
have to claim that as yours.
Yes. I agree. Okay, Spirit, how can we set the mind with this change, with these shifts? With this, I'm gonna say acceptance of our rebirth. Okay, it's time to bring some balance. Wow, we've been talking about this whole time, but it's literally this card that says to be fair. And what's interesting about the two scales here is that on one side we have the same fortune cookie from this not for you card, and the other side we have
Mm,
this egg which symbolizes peace. So it's kind of like
mm,
balancing out like those moments that feel like they're not for you in order to protect your peace. So it's saying like even though we're gonna get those tower moments, those moments that feel shitty, to be honest, what about our peace in the long run? Do we want to go and like let that storm last for 3 days or 3 minutes? Like, what are we gonna do about
mm,
this? Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and with the surrounding energy, like what this is naturally doing is allowing the emotions to heal as well as just like the mind natural this is reprogramming a lot of like deep programming about self when it's like what's the best way to put it, like seeing always seeking external validation for your problems, for your moods, for
Mm,
your changes, for where you're at in life. Basically, like this idea of just external validation to exist here, like bringing that back
mm,
in and allowing that person who says, yes, you exist, yes, you are, yes, you can feel that is you.
mm. In what ways do you see that being complicated in our today life?
I see it being complicated in this, like, especially with, when it comes to social media, to be honest, and
Mm,
and
mm-hmm.
like, and I'm not saying social media is bad at all. I'm just saying lack of education in it.
Sure.
Just because I feel like it wasn't until I got to university and I was taking media courses that really started talking about like your social identity and why people post
Sure.
themselves and the versions of selves that they construct. That I started to think about, oh my god, like I'm posting a fake version of me. This was back in 2017, 2018. I'm
Mm-hmm.
poking, no, sorry, 2018, 2019. I'm posting like basically a fake version of myself thinking that people want to see this. Well, I have a spam account that is fake. I mean, that is
Mm,
technically labeled as fake, but it's the real me. And then I realized that I was in this weird place
yeah.
of dissonance where I had uh, one version of me existing somewhere on the internet, another version of me existing elsewhere. And I felt like there's something odd here. I'm like, why is it that I go to a certain group for validation here and a certain group for validation here when realistically I'm not even getting any real validation because I'm splitting
Sure.
myself up into all these places. And that was around the
Yeah.
same time as the am I an artist? So I was asking all of these questions basically out into a void, and getting answers ish from different people, but I was realizing, man, I'm not connecting to myself. And kind of
Mm,
going into how is this hard for our generation today is that is the norm. It's like to have all of these accounts
yeah.
to like to filter your face, to do all of these altering things, like that is the norm without any like awareness of it. Like, do whatever you want if you're aware. If you're like, yeah, I'm posting this thing that totally alters my face, but then you write a description about altering or whatever, you're like, I'm aware of what I'm doing. But I feel like there's a
Yeah.
lack of awareness because there's a lack of education that people just didn't see important in the past that I feel, is. So I feel like that
Yeah.
is the biggest challenge here, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's always been the case, and I think it is more so now that like all of the internet is just capitalism and advertisements, but social media is like self-advertisement. Like the way it works is it's just like point I say something goes from point A to point B, which is you or anyone else. It's not like a organic exchange. So
Mm-hmm.
everything you put out there is just a fragmented version of who you want to appear as to other people because you have that control on the internet.
Yeah.
But I also feel like your forward-facing Instagram versus your private Instagram, even though as like a product it was manufactured, like it almost spoke to a very authentic part of you that was reaching out for some kind of connection, even though that's not how it came across. Like in the undercurrents, there is like a small amount of truth, found in that.
Yeah. And honestly, it was very liberating to have that second account. And then it felt like once I like did a merger, though, the degree of liberation was like it almost felt like, wow, I'm free. Like, like I can post whatever I want. It's like I've brought the two audiences together in my mind, like because it's hard to shake the idea that your followers don't want to see what you want to see, don't want to see you. But I'm like, at least now I am like showing all of it, like in a way that feels comfortable. Yeah.
And then I think you also start to have the questions like, why did I put those boundaries on myself? And then a step further, like, where did I get those idea of why I needed to separate those?
Yes. I felt like a lot of, and it's strange talking about that, a lot of like I want to say like of like the boundaries that were created to do with social media stemmed from boundaries that were created outside before social media existed. So we can't just say like
100%.
social media. I know I can't just say social media is just a problem because like these existed beforehand, and then I want to say were uploaded and then exploded to be honest on the internet. But it's like once that breaks down, then we would see the real problem, but it's stages and philosophical thinking there to in order to really get like a reflection to really happen about maybe our footprints and social identities. Or shows like this. Just to get a little light bulb.
The sound of you in the cards is really soothing.
Oh, interesting. I'm gonna play it back and I'm gonna tap it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. One other person said one time we were shuffling, they were like, I just like to watch the shuffle, and I'm like, cool. I'm not, do your thing, whatever calms you. Okay, let's tap into the outcome here so we can take some of this advice here. Okay, so the first card that comes out is building blocks, which has to do with basically aligning yourself with your path, heading towards your manifestations, trusting them as well. I can see that making sense because it's you trusting yourself here. Show me the mind. It's interesting because I have no place like home coming out where it's honest. It's almost like a lot of the time we think that our programming is what makes us feel connected to family, and we try to live that every day. Our sense of that connection is gone. Whereas it's almost like it's strengthened because now you're your actual self, or where we're actual selves, are fully walking in our validation, not needing our family for that sense, so we can have an actual bond with them. Something that's truly intimate and not like seeking validation or seeking any sort of energetic gain. It's just a connection because you love them. I'm not going to say just family here, though, because, we all have different types of family, but friends as well. And then we have yin with this, as the surrounding energy is learning to be a lot more passive when it comes to these life changes. Like, again, all we can do is shift perspective. We can't go out and, if say something bad happens today, we can't go and shift the entire fabric of the universe and put the event that you want in place. Just put the right mindset in place. That's what you can do.
Yeah.
A little bit more here. Spirit, any more messages here? I want to hope I hope to eventually be able to host these episodes where like the guest host can also be on camera. I gotta figure out how to fully set that up. Okay.
That is fair.
Yes, we're getting there.
How did you get into tarot?
It happened, someone asked me if I wanted a deck when we were in a crystal shop back in, I think it was the summer of 2020, and I was like, sure, I want an oracle deck, that would be cool, and then I started, like, reading for myself for about a year and a half, and then, I remember after a very hard time, I was on YouTube watching a lot of other people's readings, and then I was realizing, like, my intuition discernment was going off, like, man, these are really dark. This is not real. This is, like, people are being played, you know, right now, and I'm like, man, this is, ugh. And it kind of inspired me to, like, share very authentic, very, like, you know, like, whatever, like, the true message is for people, because I was, like, honestly upset that, like, there was, like, such a saturated community of people just, like, making money off of any sort of marketing scheme they could tap into off of the human consciousness, and that was like, just, you know, just I was so upset, especially because, like, sorry.
Oh no, you continue.
Oh, I felt almost like a victim in the sense that because I was watching a lot of the content, I wasn't paying for it, but I was like, man, I'm watching a lot of this. If my discernment was low, the amount of stuff I could have just like seen as true, you know, but I'm very happy that I was discerning, that there are discerning people out there, but these people, they get like 40,000 views, and I'm like, oh no, this is bad for mental health, okay?
Yeah, and I think because, like, to, like, people who maybe don't practice as often, the breadth of knowledge that the, you know, like, cards and, like, crystals contain, like, it's, like, overwhelming that they feel like they need to look to, like, the people on these YouTube as positions of authority, that they know what they're talking about. So, like, you don't really contest their readings or their interpretations when you know, it is the same, you know, you and I, like, let's say you could have read for 15 years, but we would give the same person 2 different readings, even if the cards were the same.
Yes.
So, and yeah, the taking advantage of the human consciousness is totally, I feel that.
What I find most interesting also about, like, reading for people has been that it's not, like, I don't see, like, my gifts or wherever I am as anything that no one else can develop or tap into or increase themselves. Like, a lot of my clients have come to me, and then after a few sessions, let's say we work together for like 3 months or something, just like 4 sessions or something. By the end, I'm like, look, I don't want to book you in again because it's like time for you to just start practicing. It's like, I've given you what I know, like, you know, like, now it's just like, we're at the same spot. I don't know what to tell, like, you know, go out and practice. You're good. And then it's like, it's funny because I've had a client come back and then do a reading for me. So I'm like, it's, whoa, you see, it's very interesting. I'm like, it doesn't take like you having a certain DNA, blood gene, birthright, or anything. No, it's just you wanting to be aware and connecting and wanting to receive the knowledge. And you shall.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like some people get it in their mind that it's just easier to outsource this work and to, you know, if I just throw time or money at something else and someone else will make it happen, rather than like the act of being turned inwards.
Yes. And there's a lot of fear too. There's a lot of fear. Like I have clients who come to me who are afraid of tarot, and I'm like, okay, we're gonna clear this up as well. Like, something drew you in, but also there's connotation that's keeping you like tiptoeing. So I'm like, we gotta figure out what that is.
Do you find that there's like a recurring thread as to why people have that apprehension to tarot?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with, I want to say like semi-religious programming, but more so just like negative depictions in media, which honestly can be related if you want to do a deep dive to some biblical programming. But it's like in horror films and whatnot, a lot of spirits, entities, and whatnot that we may have heard of in like the last 20 years were all depicted as like things that will possess you and steal children and, you know, kill you and whatnot. And these are things that I'm like, I talk with these entities, these energies every day, and it's love and it's peaceful. So it's kind of hard to change the image that's already there. Like when I first started, I wanted to say that I was a witch. And when I first said that, every single person who I said that to was like, whoa, you're a witch? You do black, you do spells?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, don't hurt me.
I'm like, what are you? I'm so confused. I'm like, no. I'm like, I peace, love, and light. I'm like, I read cards. Like, I can feel your energies. Like, it's all of these lovely things I'm saying, but all they can hear all they can see are those pictures that were already programmed in, and it's hard to get around.
Yeah. I think especially when people think that a lot of elements of spirituality are like foo-foo, like you know, like you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just someone who has too much heart.
Yeah. We have like, it's a weird mix on live. We'll get people who are like, oh my God, you are Satan, you worship the devil. I'm like, I played Lucy, you know, in a show, but that's not what's going on here. We have other people who are like, man, this guy sounds like he's reading a book, so he's fake. And I'm like, I don't understand the correlate. And I'm like, I welcome all energies. It's been an interesting process, but at the same time, like, while we get those comments, there's a wide audience who's like quick to like come for them and be like, look, this is a positive space, my friend. But I'm like, no, guys, welcome all energies in. You know, we're positive. You know, there's light, there's dark. It is just duality. It's the world we exist in. They were also drawn here for a reason. Receive the message, even if you don't want to believe you're hearing it.
Yeah, and I feel like if people really like listen to like what you or the cards or anyone else were saying, like you'd notice pretty fast that most conversations are saying the same thing. Yeah. They just use different words.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so like the final piece here that I'm getting here, I'm seeing like it's time to start believing, because I've wanted the worst come out. So it's honestly starting to understand that the way in which we were operating kind of was manifesting not the best. We'll put it that way. That's a positive way to say it. Not the best intentions for our lives and for our path, for our day-to-day, you know, keeping us in that never-ending story, that repeating cycle kind of energy here. With this be yourself please kind of coming out is kind of I want to say like the final piece of confirmation that we've been kind of getting into is like learning, this is our spirit guides coming through and saying like, look, no one here is going to tell you how to be. No one here is going to believe in you. No one here is going to say, you're an amazing artist, so this is your new role, or, you know, you're a great producer, Steph, so here's a, you know, a company. Like, you know, no one's going to do it. You know, you got to find that juice within yourself. And let's actually ask, before we close out, how do we find this within ourselves? Okay, so the two pieces here with fifth dimension visuals in reverse, it's tapping back into our heart, starting to love every piece of ourselves here. And then with this check your influence, it's honestly starting to it's to double check our surroundings, and that sometimes when we have lenses, I'm going to say, around us that aren't able to see the good in us, you know, they're going to say it. Okay, and it's not up to us to go and adapt or adopt what they're saying and say that this is true and be like, yeah, you know what? Just because everyone around me, like for instance, my singing I know is not 100% beautiful, but it's increased over the years, and it's increased because even though I've had people be like, Seymour, what the hell are you doing? You know, I'm like, you know, guys, I don't care. I like my voice, and I'm gonna keep going. That's why it's improved. I see it as. So I take it as that's kind of an example of this energy here of like, you might have people around you that are going to constantly be like, look, I don't see your vision. I don't see your end goal. I don't believe in it, you know? And it's... Yeah,
people don't want to see you improve.
Yeah, they don't.
They want to feel like they have control over other people's success so they can feel in control of their success.
Yes, they want to be able to cap other people somewhere else. Like, okay, you're there? Perfect. I know where you are, so I know exactly where I'm going instead. And it's just starting to see these energies and like relieve ourselves from them without shame, feeling like we're abandoning them regardless of who they are. And we can do that when our heart is filled, when we're feeling like we're loving ourselves completely. That we don't need the others. Yeah, because Spirit's last card here is you're protected from jealousy regardless. So even if there's these energies here that are making you think differently about your work, you know, how far you're going, your rebirths, you're good. No one can take your path from you. Like, it's always going to be there. Just depends on how you're looking at it. Okay. That's our session there. How did that feel for you?
That was fun. I like that it was very conversational. I'm just sitting in my room looking out the window, and that was my view as we spoke.
That is lovely. That is lovely to hear. I'm happy that it was very chill for you. I like these sessions because it's different from like doing a personal session or being live. When I'm live or going really fast, we're doing readings for people like crazy, and then a personal that's very emotional for me. I will say lots of energy, but here it's like Spirit's just sending in very general energies, and we can just talk.
Yeah.
That's the wake up talk. Make people feel comfortable just to talk about things that maybe they don't have the space or the rooms or the audiences to talk about. Okay, so we are this is pretty much the end of our episode here. Before we close, I know this is kind of putting you on the spot, but is there anything that you maybe wanted to share with our audience or talk about maybe from your walk of life?
Anything I want to say? Read a book once in a while. I feel like so many people put off reading because they're like, oh, I don't have time for it. And I'm like, surprise yourself. Yes. Just stop yourself and read something once a day. And I find that it just forces you to slow down because like the act of reading is receiving someone else's thoughts and words. And like the way you open a book and the way you pour over the pages, like there's a kind of pace that you've started. There's a joint journey in a conversation. So right now, I think that is maybe the most easy and accessible thing people could do to ground themselves a little bit, just a little. But
any book recommendations?
Oh, I have many, but I don't know if any people want all those.
Very fair.
I read a really good book called She of the Mountains. And I forget the artist's name right now, but that is a very good book. It's both poetry and like writing and like a little bit about mythology in there as well. It's very good. Very queer as well.
Okay. I like the sound of that. So you send me the title and the full title afterwards, and we'll put it in the description as well, okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo!
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steph, for joining me, and hopefully we'll have you back on the Wake Up Talk. Yes, of course.
Oh, thank you, Seymour. Always a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you. Okay, have a good night.
You too. Take care.